The Late Show studio buzzed with a warm electric charge as Stephen Colbert stepped up to his desk. His grin was bright, earnest. His energy lit the room like a beacon, sharp, heartfelt, undeniable. The crowd erupted, their cheer shaking the walls, a roar of trust, a promise of truth and laughter. Across from him sat Elon Musk, tousled hair, slouched posture, eyes glinting with a cool arrogance. He looked like a man used to owning the room, his hands resting smugly on the chair, ready to conquer. The audience was a collision of worlds, Colbert loyalists and tech disciples. Tension hummed under the applause, a pulse that said, "This won't be ordinary." A clash was brewing. Colbert leaned into it with his signature ease. "Tonight's guest," he said, "is a man with more money than most countries, and a plan to leave us all behind for Mars." He smiled knowingly. Laughter rose like a wave, the audience with him, completely. Musk smirked, reclining. "Stephen, I'm saving humanity, one rocket at a time." "You're welcome." The tone, condescending. The line, flat, scattered claps, some side eyes. The arrogance settled like smoke. Colbert cocked an eyebrow. "Saving us, huh? Still wearing that billionaire glow like it's a gift just to witness. You?" The jab was light but pointed. A flick of the truth served warm. The audience chuckled, tight, nervous. The sparring had begun. Colbert pressed on, easing into SpaceX. "So, Elon, this Mars thing, are you really trying to colonize it? Or is it just a playground for the ultra-rich to escape us peasants?" The question dripped charm and bite. A wink to the camera. The audience roared, applause swelling. The little guy had a champion tonight. Musk shrugged. "Serious as can be, Stephen. Earth's a mess. Mars is the future." His voice, smug, detached. A layer of disdain crept in. The room shifted. Some clapped, others frowned. Something had turned. Colbert leaned in, voice soft but razor-edged. "The future, huh? What about us, you know, those of us footing the bill for your cosmic joyride?" The words hung in the air. A joke, yes, but more than that. A challenge. The smirk on Musk's face faltered. Fingers tapped the armrest. "Oh, come on, Stephen," he scoffed. "You whining about bills now? Stick to comedy. Leave the vision to me." The audience gasped. Soft boos stirred. The tension snapped taut. A live wire crackling. Colbert's smile stiffened. "Comedy, sure," he said, voice low and crisp. "But I'm not the one dodging reality with a private planet." The crowd erupted. Applause, cheers, whoops. They could feel the ground shifting toward something real. Musk didn't blink. His smirk was thinner now, tighter. Fingers drummed faster. His eyes swept the audience like they were noise, not people. A titan used to steamrolling everything in his orbit. Colbert sat still, smile gone, voice like steel. "Dodging reality. Elon, that's rich. Coming from a guy who thinks Mars fixes everything while we're still here picking up the pieces." The words landed, sharp, final, and loud. The audience rose behind him, clapping, shouting. Faith in Colbert's fire, in his fight. This wasn't just another interview, it was a reckoning. And the fuse? It was already lit. There was a wall behind Colbert, but it might as well have been a shield. The studio had become a battleground, and Musk's arrogance was starting to crack. Tension shimmered in the air, hotter with every breath. Musk leaned forward, his voice cold and clipped. "Oh, Stephen, so noble, huh? Crying for the little people while I'm out solving real problems. Maybe stick to your jokes." The words dripped disdain, a verbal shove meant to belittle not just Colbert, but the entire room. The crowd turned. Boos grew louder. Some shouted back. Their unease boiled over into anger, a crashing wave against Musk's towering ego. The clash was no longer brewing. It had ignited. Colbert's eyes flashed. "Jokes? Sure. But at least I'm not pretending my bank account makes me a savior. Tell me, Elon, who exactly are you solving problems for? Yourself? The reply hit like thunder, fierce, direct, but fair. The crowd erupted, cheers surged. Some stood to their feet, the studio shaking from the force of their support. A host calling out a titan, and winning. It was raw, righteous, and real. Musk fired back, his composure unraveling. His hands slashed the air. You don't get it. Stephen, I'm building the future. You're stuck in the past, whining about fairness. It's pathetic. The snarl in his voice was unmistakable, his mask slipping, entitlement exposed. The boos were thunder now, louder, fiercer. Cries of, "You're out of touch," and "Sit down," filled the air. Loyalty shifted. Lines were drawn. The temperature in the room rose to a boiling point. But Colbert, unshaken. He stayed steady, his voice calm but pointed. The future, huh? Sounds like a pretty excuse to leave us behind. I'm not whining, Elon. I'm watching out for them. Something you seem to have forgotten. He nodded gently toward the audience, his words a shield, a vow. The room exploded. Applause, shouts, a tidal wave of support crashing behind him. Musk's scorn only fanned the flames. This wasn't just a conversation anymore. It was a standoff. One man stood for the people, the other for himself, and the divide had grown too wide to cross. Then, snap, Musk surged to his feet. His chair screeched back with a grinding scrape. I don't need this, he barked. You're a clown, Stephen. I'm done with your sanctimonious garbage. His hands ripped off the mic, cord flailing. His face twisted in rage, the billionaire polish fractured and falling away. Keep your little show. I've got better things to do. He stormed off, stage, each stomp echoing louder than the last. The crowd booed hard. Some cheered, a roar of defiance shaking the set. Musk's exit was a blaze of ego undone, a dramatic collapse in real time. Colbert leaned back, hands raised slightly, his voice smooth, cool. Elon, take care. Mars won't miss you. It landed like a final note, soft but certain. The crowd erupted, a tidal wave of applause, cheers, and chants. The studio crackled with raw energy, anger and triumph braided together. A confrontation had flared and burned out, and when the smoke cleared, Musk was gone. Colbert still stood. He didn't gloat. He didn't celebrate. He just sat there, calm, steady. A man who had held the line. Behind the scenes, chaos churned. Crew darted through the wings, headsets buzzing, phones lighting up. Musk had shoved past a producer, his coat flapping, his voice a bitter growl fading into the hallway. The ego had cracked, and the fallout had just begun. Online, the moment spread like wildfire. Clips, quotes, hashtags, a cultural earthquake, and, at the center of it all, a late-night host who stood his ground and a billionaire who couldn't take the heat. One had the crowd, the other had the door, and in that studio, the people's voice rang loud and clear, triumph. Not in mockery, but in grit, in heart, in truth. I'm done with your sanctimonious garbage. The words still hung in the air like smoke, sharp, bitter, unforgettable. Already the internet was catching fire. Clips of the clash exploded across feeds, some slamming Musk's meltdown, others rallying. Behind Colbert's stand. But inside the studio, the spotlight held steady. Colbert remained grounded, centered. The crowd, still buzzing, was now his. A storm had passed. And the host? He was still standing. Colbert leaned toward the mic, his voice smooth, his delivery effortless. Well, folks, looks like Elon's off to colonize the green room. Guess the view from Earth was a little too real. Laughter erupted. Warm, relieved, genuine. Applause swelled. People clapped. Some whistled. Others stood. It wasn't just humor. It was a lifeline, tossed just when they needed it most. A host turning a blowout into a bond. His hands rested lightly on the desk, his posture calm. The tension melted like frost under sun. He didn't dwell on the tantrum, didn't jab for cheap points. Instead, he flowed with it, folding the chaos into the rhythm of the night. I thought we were talking rockets, he added with a shrug and a sly grin. Didn't think we'd launch one off stage. My bad. He mimicked Musk's mic toss with a little flick of the wrist, a gesture that drew another round of roaring laughter, a masterclass in pivoting, turning a fracture into a full-blown win. Musk's rage faded in the room's rear view. Colbert's calm took the wheel. It wasn't just recovery. It was redemption, and it was earned. With grace. With heart. The vibe lifted, the mood turned. Colbert's voice rose just enough to pull them forward. Okay, he smiled. Let's move on. We've got a show to do. You folks ready for some fun? The crowd erupted. Cheers rolled through the studio like thunder. Some leapt to their feet, others threw fists in the air. Not for spectacle, but because they felt it. This wasn't just applause. It was a wave of unity, a shared stand forged not in Musk's fall, but in the night's rise. From collision to connection, Colbert had guided them through. No grudges, no bitterness, just rhythm, just truth. The show moved forward, its pulse steady, its host in command. The crowd followed him, step by step, their trust a quiet roar behind every line. Back on line, the storm howled louder. Clips of Musk's sanctimonious garbage and Colbert's sharp-as-steel comebacks ricocheted across platforms. One man slammed, the other praised, a digital wildfire that spread far past the studio walls. But in that room, under the lights, the noise faded behind the real moment, a moment reclaimed. Colbert didn't need to fan the flames. He let the laughter do the lifting. Well, he quipped, we hit a little turbulence. Elon took off faster than one of his rockets, but hey, we're still here, right? The crowd howled again, some laughing, some shouting, all with him. The storm had become a story, their story. And Colbert? He turned it into a triumph, not with mockery but with meaning, not with ego but with grace. A show nearly derailed now thrummed with life, thanks to a host who held the line, and a room that rose with him. The host stood firm. Musk's team stayed silent. No tweets, no statements, no spin to contain the blaze. Meanwhile, Colbert's crew watched the numbers soar, views climbing, clips spreading like wildfire. But it wasn't chaos that drew them. It was control. Colbert's calm, a steady hand holding the line. A triumph captured in real time. The clash? Just the spark. This was the glow. On stage, Colbert pivoted, effortless. He welcomed the night's musical guest, and with that, a shift. The band's bright notes flowing like a breeze through the room, washing over the crowd, lifting them from tension to celebration. The rhythm was joy now, a soft, warm current, replacing the earlier storm. Bodies swayed, smiles bloomed. Applause pulsed steady. No longer relief, but release. The moment wrapped around them. Not bitter, not boastful, but earned. A win not from striking back but from standing tall. As the final minutes ticked down, Colbert stood alone under the lights. No flash, no fury, just presence. Unshakable, undeniable, his voice carried, rich with sincerity. You folks are the heart of this. Thanks for sticking with me. A pause, then a grin. If you felt that, hit that like button. Subscribe for more real nights. A perfect sign-off. Simple. Solid. The crowd rose in one motion, a standing ovation that thundered through the rafters, a wave of gratitude for a host who didn't just ride the storm. He redirected it. The cameras panned wide, faces glowing, spirits lifted, all bound to the same shared energy. Some buzzing, some beaming, but all there. The night had nearly cracked. Instead, it crystallized. Musk's arrogance, a footnote. Colbert's command, a flame. Still burning, still rising. As the screen faded to black, a final beat landed clean. A show that soared, a stand that resonated, and a reminder of what it means to meet bluster with truth and win. Hey, if you felt that stand, smash that like, subscribe, and stick with us. We've got more where that came from.